Episode of EVil Intoxicated, episode number 50. And you know what we do here every week at the start on our Wednesday night, right after The Ultimate Fighter, season 25, episode number 7. Redemption of Gov Me is, of course, infamous Ted Czech. What's going on, Ted?
Hey, what's up, Eddie? Yeah, you know what? The crazy thing was, I work during the day, but I got a call because the news never sleeps, right?
Yep.
I got a call, so I missed all of the build-up for the Ultimate Fight for this episode. I tuned in probably at about the half-hour mark.
Ted, I'll tell you what.
I didn't see any of the training. I didn't see any of if there was any footage from the house. Didn't see it.
You want to hear something funny? You didn't miss much because it's been the same thing every week, and I'm really happy that you started off that way because I even tweeted you about it. I was like, Ted, are we gonna see something different this week or what? It was literally just a flashback like we saw in episode 1 from all of the fighters, the 2-hour-long episode. Right. It was a flashback of that pretty much, so you really didn't miss much, nor did our listeners here. But anyone that's tuning in right now, make sure you follow me and Ted on Twitter if you want to live tweet with us or let us know what you thought about tonight's episode on Twitter at Ted Czech, that's TEDCZECH, and at Pure Evil MMA. But like I said, Ted, you really didn't miss much, and that's one thing that's really been bothering both you and I this season, it seems like.
Well, I mean, so did they? Let me ask you this: did they go over what redemption means to both fighters? Like, in other words, Joe Stevenson. I know he's had a lot of things go on in his life. They talked about that.
Yeah, they definitely brushed up on like the redemption story, which is definitely what they need to do because it's the redemption season. But I just feel like they focus a little bit too much on that. Like you said, did I miss something in the house? You immediately were like, did I miss something in the house? That's, of course, what we all want to really see.
Yeah, and maybe it's just a case of, as I like to say, squeezing 10 pounds of crap into a 5-pound bag. You've got, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you got, the possibility of anything that goes on in the house, the training, the backgrounds on the fighters, the build-up to the fight, the back and forth bickering between Cody and TJ, you got to have that. So maybe it's just too much. You know what I mean? You can't. If you had a little bit of each one of those things, maybe you couldn't do anything justice. I don't know.
Well, you know what? Just to give us like a look outside of the box, like let's step outside the box for a second. If we were new to MMA, we're new to the sport, we're new to the show, of course, all of these guys, and we know their story, but a lot of people don't out there. And that is very important that they do showcase that. Like tonight, they showed Joe's backstory, which you're very familiar with. His, father was schizophrenic and bipolar, and his dad actually had like an axe above his head, which he was above his bed. He was kind of sharing tonight. A very sad story. His mother took him out of the house after that. His father was, doing whatever, acting a little out of hand. And
when
the mother
was young. When Joe was a young boy.
Yeah, when Joe was growing up, and he had a sister. And they went to the aunt's house. So the mom had like a beer or two, and they were getting ready to leave the aunt's house, had the sister in the car, and the house was on a hill, Ted, and the emergency brake broke. And the aunt saw the car start rolling towards the hill, jumps in front of the car to hold it so the sister doesn't die, ends up getting run over. And the aunt doesn't survive, but the sister had her life saved. But it was all for the e-brake. The mother got arrested for neglect or for drinking. Something like that. It really messed up Joe Stevenson. So they showed a piece of that.
That's horrible.
Absolutely horrible. There's a lot of sad stories, and of course we're very familiar that he has a drinking problem. That's kind of what set him back before in the past when he went on a 4-fight losing streak.
Oof! Wow. Yeah, that's some heavy stuff right there. So yeah, when I think it was TJ said, well, nobody has a bigger redemption story than him. I mean, who's to weigh those out? I mean, everybody's got their own story, but that is pretty heavy right there.
Well, Ted, just off the bat for our listeners, you're very familiar with Joe Big Daddy Stevenson, one of your favorite characters that were going to be on this episode, or on this season, I should say. So what is it about Joe that you like that our listeners out there that aren't so familiar with him? What are some of the things that stands out about him that brings up in your head? Of course, I remember the BJ Penn fight that he got slaughtered in, but that was an exciting fight.
Yeah, let's see. First of all, he started really, really young, I believe. I think he started fighting when he was maybe like 16, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere around that. I know he was below the age of 18. Okay, let's put it that way. That's the first thing. I mean, his career goes back a long ways. Um, One thing I'll just say quickly, when I noticed when they put up the tail of the tape between Joe Daddy and Justin Edwards, they're the same age. They're both 34, but Justin Edwards, 9 wins, 5 losses. Joe Daddy, 33 wins, 14 losses, if I remember correctly. Guy's been around a long time. Okay, so he was probably fighting. He probably did a lot of underground fighting, I would guess. Just kind of a guess. He's from California. That's where they did a lot of that stuff. Before it became legal and before the UFC really got going. So that's the first thing I would tell you. If somebody were to say, "Hey, tell me about Joe Daddy Stevenson," is that he started off real young. I just remember in the Ultimate Fighter 2, I think they had both heavyweights and lightweights. He was a lightweight at the time. He was a 155er. And one of the challenges that they had to do was they had the heavyweight stand there, looking very heavyweight-ish, right?
Yeah.
And then they had the lightweight climb around him like a monkey on a tree. That's probably what they called it. They probably called it monkey climbing on the tree or something. So, and you had to go like around the fighter, and that was like 1. Around the guy 2. And I think it was Joe, I think he was paired up with Ben Rothwell, if I'm not mistaken. It might not have been Rothwell, it might have been another guy, but Joe went around the dude like 200 times or something.
That's crazy.
I think they won. Whoever Joe was paired up with, they won the damn thing. It was amazing.
That was like 2005, 2004, around that time. That was quite some time ago. Of course, Rashad Evans was one of the winners on that season as well.
Yeah, that's another thing I remember about him.
So also they did preview on like leading up to his redemption that he's also working on that show Kingdom, which I wasn't very familiar with watching that show, but he is working on behind the scenes. And then they popped into Justin Edwards, which Ted, what do you really know about Justin Edwards? Because to me, I remember him from that season 13 of Ultimate Fighter, but really all I remember is him getting knocked out with that scissor kick from Ferguson.
Okay, that's more than me. I honestly, I'm just going to be totally honest with you. The guy totally off my radar. I don't remember anything about the guy. But I mean, you look at the guy and you say, okay, looks like a gamer. Looks like a tough fighter, and showed that he was in fact a tough fighter in that fight with Joe. I was impressed with the guy, for sure. Because he looked like he was gassed at one point, but somehow found some more, fuel in the tank somewhere. You know what I mean? I was impressed.
Yeah, let's jump right into the fight here. Going right into it, it seemed to me like Joe Big Daddy Stevenson, I mean, I'm not trying to throw shade on him. He just seemed very slow throughout the entire fight. It looked like he was almost just charging in to every exchange that he had, and he was just getting caught with a lot of counter strikes, beautiful kicks by Edwards there. But I just really wasn't that impressed with Joe Big Daddy Stevenson until the second round really switched in. And like you said, Edwards found that second win, which really saved that second round there. But, let's focus on that first round. What did you really critique in that round? Who'd you have that go into there?
See, here's the thing. You know me, I'm always looking at my watch, right? So I'm seeing that it's like 20 minutes to 11, and I'm thinking, okay, they're definitely going to 3.
Right.
Going to the third round, and a lot of the fighters and the coaches thought so too. Mm-hmm. Those rounds, in my mind, those rounds were. Are you drinking a Blue Moon, by the way?
Yeah, none of our viewers saw that, but yes, I definitely am drinking a Blue Moon.
Well, that's why I'm telling them. Yeah, that's a Blue Moon right there.
Artisan beer.
Do you have the orange in it? You got to put a slice of orange in there.
You are supposed to put the orange in the Belgian white, but I did not tonight. Not tonight.
Oh, all right, man. All right. Well, anyway, so let's see. What was I talking about here?
We're talking about round 1 of the fight.
I thought both rounds were very hard to score. You know what I mean? Because I mean, Joe had a takedown, but it was it was almost like a gentle lay down. It wasn't really like a bam takedown. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of and with Edwards going for the guillotine. But I thought Joe started off with some nice jabs. I thought he really was doing well with the jabs. God, I don't know. I mean, and then you look at the second round, and they both had their strengths and weaknesses in that round. I thought at one point in the second round, at least like 4 or 5 exchanges, they were both hitting each other at about the same time. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
They were bang, bang. It was just one shot at a time. Bang, bang. And they're both connecting with each other at the same time. I was like, that's really kind of cool.
I think Edwards was doing a great job landing those knees as well to the jaw of Joe Stevenson, which really shocked me. That really didn't seem like it stunned him too much.
No, because Joe kept going like this, and he's hitting himself. You know what I mean? So, so he was, he was game. But yeah, no, I did think that Edwards did catch him with a lot of stuff. I thought he had. If you wanted to look at the power punches, I thought Edwards had more power punches.
So in the first round, of course, like you said, Edwards and Joe were landing some really nice jabs, but I really enjoyed the uppercuts that Edwards was landing. And then, like you said, in round 2, well, first for round 1, I scored it 10-9 to Edwards. I had the first round going to Edwards. But then as we got into the second round, Joe started really picking things up towards the second half. And he was doing good in the beginning of the fight as well, which is why I thought we might see a third round. And, of course, I was looking at my watch, too, which I was like, how is this not going to a third round? And I forgot we had a wild card coming in tonight, which is what we're going to get into next. But what did you have the second round scored as? Did you really have it going to a third round despite the time just watching the fight?
It was geez, man, I'm torn. I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I guess I would have given it to Joe by like a hair. You know what I mean?
It was that close.
But it was close because he had a guillotine attempt in I think in the second round, right?
Yeah, and 2 takedowns.
And 2 takedowns. Yeah. And he was I thought he
pressure.
was more aggressive in that second round. So yeah. So probably it would have been 10-9 Edwards first round, 10-9 Joe second. So therefore we're going to a third. So I was shocked when they said, "Oh no, fight's over, fight's over, fight's over." What? Yeah. What do you mean fight's over? Fight's not over.
That's what I said.
What do you mean? No, it's not.
Which is almost a flashback to last week's episode, which I just caught the end of tonight, which was it really seemed like an early stoppage. I was like, what do you mean that's the end of the fight? Absolutely crazy. I don't understand how that didn't go to a third round though, Ted, tonight. Honestly, it really was the split of a hair, which is why you can't leave it in the hands of the judges. But what's so difficult about it is you only got 2 rounds on The Ultimate Fighter, which a lot of people are against,
Yeah, and why do they do that? Is it because they don't want if you have 2 rounds, does that equal an exhibition fight? If you go 3, then that's a real fight.
Probably.
They consider these, and so therefore they would have to pay them.
Well, they already kind of are this season, but yeah, I think you make a good point there. That probably is the case.
Money for wins, and are they getting money for knockouts or submissions?
They're getting bonus money for finishes.
Finishes.
Yes.
Everybody thinks I'm drinking. I'm not the one who's drinking. Eddie's drinking. I'm not drinking.
So honestly, Ted, I was looking at my clock at the same time, and I was like, how is this not going to the third round? And like I said, I forgot they're doing the wild card, which is a big part of this season. We're able to bring somebody back. And there was a lot of people out there. I was looking at social media. I was looking at the Twitter. And even on this episode, Eddie Truck Garden was pissed. He even thinks that, Joe, who got picked, is going to hurt himself in there. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I guess I didn't have it in my mind that, okay, Dana White's not just going to pick a wild card guy. No, he's going to pick 2 guys and make them fight each other for the wild card. I was like, whoa. I don't know if that's usually, I've been away from TUF for a little while. So this is kind of my redemption. I'm back in the TUF family. So if that's the way what's that?
They usually do not do the wild card.
Or do they usually just pick a guy and say, you're the wild card guy. Do they usually pick 2 guys and make them fight each other?
Well, what usually happens when somebody does come back on a season Ultimate Fighter, it's because somebody's gotten injured. I've never actually seen, and reminded me if I'm wrong, guys, I don't ever remember seeing a wild card on the Ultimate Fighter. I don't.
Because they've got 7 guys. They've had 7, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense, like they said at the beginning of the season, there's an off number. So they got
so you need an 8th person so that you can have 4 versus 4, 2 versus 2, and, go like that. So I thought it was a bit of sour grapes for Eddie Gordon. You know what I mean? I thought he was a bit butthurt by that. He wasn't there in the room with TJ and Cody and then Dana White via Skype or whatever, because he then accused TJ of how come you get to pick who goes from our team, which if I was Hyder, I would be pissed. I'd be like, what do you mean? You don't think I should be the one? Like, you know what I mean? But TJ just, Eddie didn't see that Dana asked both TJ and Cody who they thought, in general, looking at all of the guys, who they thought deserved it.
Honestly, I was shocked. I really was shocked. I was impressed with what I saw tonight from Joe Big Daddy Stevenson. And like I said, I'm not trying to throw any shade on Joe at all. I was very excited that he was on this season. But, Hader Hassan, that made sense to me. Joe Big Daddy Stevenson, I understand where Truck's coming from. Eddie Truck Gordon probably should have been the number 1 pick to be brought back on for this wild card, Ted. That's my opinion. I just really wasn't too impressed with Joe Big Daddy Stevenson tonight, based on what I saw tonight. And that really doesn't mean much because I wasn't there seeing the actual fight, and at the same time, I haven't seen his last couple of fights either.
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought he did. I thought it was at least a split decision win, or I thought they were even. As we said, Joe and Edwards, and I thought he put on a great performance, and so I think he deserves it. And then Cody afterwards, I mean, so obvious, trying to play these mind games, these psyops, saying, 6 days, woo, I don't know if I do that. That's dangerous. That was my fighter, dude. I don't know if I'd do that, dude. Hanging with the boys.
Hanging with the boys.
You're gonna sound like a douche. He's trying so hard. He's a tryhard. Dude, I don't know if I'd do that, man. My fight, Hader hits really hard, dude. Like Hader hits like incredibly, like devastatingly hard, dude. Like I wouldn't do that to Joe, dude.
We're from the land, bro. We're from the land.
Yeah, I was like, come on, man. Like trying really hard to.
Honestly, though, Ted, looking at this fight right off the bat, who are you siding with? Without trying to be biased, just looking at this fight, without picking favorite, who do you really pick for this wild card matchup here?
Well, geez, I don't know. I mean, Joe does have a habit of getting hit a lot, and Hader Hassan likes to hit. So, and he's got less mileage. He's younger and he has less mileage than Joe. So I'd probably have to go with Hassan.
That's something that also surprised me on this. When Dana White brought up this wild card, he said, not only do you who do you want to bring back, but who do you think could do the best and has the most fight time really left in them? And when they picked Joe, that also threw me off that they were taking that into consideration along with everything else. Not just his redemption story, but that is on top of it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it was just because his fight had just happened. So that was like fresh in their mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was top of mind as people like, it was very top of mind. It was like fresh in their minds. So maybe that kind of entered in. And I mean, I thought he put on a great performance, but you could also say, well, he put on a great performance for a 34-year-old dude who has 50 fights.
From season 2 of Ultimate Fighter.
Season 2, he looked great,
Well, Ted, who's left from that season that's still active? Think about it. Rashad Evans, of course, but not many guys.
Right. Oh, and saying Joe Daddy's going to get hurt by Hader.
That was, that's what Cody was saying.
And Belvin Flipmunk, Joe Daddy got subbed by Dakota Cochran.
Dakota, we've got.
You've interviewed Dakota Cochran.
I've interviewed Dakota Cochran. Yes, I have.
John Tolstoy.
Well, Ted, you actually informed me of that story, which I completely forgot about, Dakota, which you can bring up about Dakota.
I mean, you know, when he got on The Ultimate Fighter, I mean, it was all over the interwebs, you know, that he had you know, been in the adult industry, and in the gay for pay, I guess he was saying, because he was saying he maintains he was never gay. That he did that so he could put himself through college. People have differing opinions, you know. If you do gay porn, well, then that means you're gay. I don't know. I have no experience in that. So
well, we don't have to make a statement on it, but that was like what most people remembered from that season about Dakota. So anyone out there that doesn't remember his name, that will probably ring a bell if they saw that season.
Yeah. So anyway, so I don't. Is that true? Did Dakota submit Joe? I don't know if that was. It wasn't on The Ultimate Fighter, was it? Was it later in competition?
It might have been later in competition. Both guys were, of course, on The Ultimate Fighter, but Dakota was not on that season.
Yeah, I didn't think he was on number 2.
No,
I didn't think he went that far back.
He was on one of the later seasons. But yeah, right off the bat, man, I'm going with Hader Hassan to win this fight, and I can totally agree with you here. I can agree with Cody. I can agree with Eddie Truck Gordon. Joe might get hurt in this fight, and of course it's fighting, you know, but
it's Joe, and I'm sure Joe has had quick turnarounds before. I mean, if he's had 50 fights, he's probably had more that aren't even in the books, and I'm sure he's done quick turnarounds. They used to do that back in the day, you know, Militich Fighting Systems. They, you know, where Tim Sylvia and Matt Hughes and who else? Oh my God, all those guys that came out of Militich. Those guys used to fight every weekend. You know, so back in the day, they used to do that a lot. It's only now that we're, you know, in this modern era, we've got fighters that are only fighting twice a year, for God's sake, you know. Sorry, what was the question?
No, Hader Hassan, I really think that he's going to win next season. Is Joe going to get hurt? I don't know, because look at his performance tonight. And like I said, just based off his performance tonight, you really can't judge too much on that, because looking into it and, you know, studying the fighters, interviewing them, talking with them about what goes into every fight, and this is different. You're in a house. You're with a bunch of different guys. We don't know what's really going on, like, that day. You know, anything could really affect a fighter on a certain day. So I just wasn't impressed with his performance, but any other fight I've seen with Joe, I've been a huge fan of his, you know? Yeah. So you can't put too much on what you saw tonight.
So you're like GSP. I am not impressed by your performance.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe's just a fighter, you know, through and through. So I don't think he's concerned about that. You know what I mean? He's not concerned. Oh, you know, I got marked up a bit. So what? 6 days, plenty of time. You know.
Well, if we had to rate tonight's episode as we get to the end of this recap, and of course we're going to be getting into some MMA news in just a second here. There's a lot that was going on this week that me and Ted got to break down for everybody, but I got to ask everyone this, and we do it every week. If you had to rate tonight's episode out of 5 stars, and I'm asking everybody in the chat room, anyone that's listening to this on the podcast, if you want to tweet in on Twitter at PureEvilMMA and also at Ted Czech, let us know. Ted, I'm going to start with you. Out of 5 stars, what would you rate tonight's episode? And if you were a new viewer, would you tune in next week for, you know, Hader Hassan versus Joe? Is that next week's fight? Are they going to do the wild card next week?
I think it will be, because they were saying, I mean, of course, it's TV, you can do anything, but they were saying 6 days. So if you want to.
Yeah.
I mean, all of this has already happened. We're not watching it live, so they can do whatever they want. But I would think it would be next week. Or maybe they'll combine it. Maybe they'll have the wild card fight plus another fight. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go.
Which is weird, because we used to usually see 2 fights per every episode, which I think that's a little weird that they're doing that. So maybe, and I hope that's what's up. But they only talked about Hader Hassan versus Joe Big Daddy Stevenson. Ted, what do you give it out of 5 stars?
Well, based purely, you know, like I said, I missed the first half of the episode. I mean, just based purely on the fight, to me it was the most exciting fight that we've had so far, the most entertaining fight. So I'm giving it a 4 point. What can I do? 4.75? 4.8?
Give it 4.5 or 5 or 4.
4.8 from the Polish judge.
4.8. 4.8762 squared. I'm going to give tonight's episode literally, it's on the verge of a 3 and a 4 for me because it just seems like the same old pattern over and over again for me. And as somebody that's been watching all season, I'm kind of like losing interest. I want to see what's going on in the house, Ted. That's what I want to see.
Are we sure that anything is going on? Well, we don't know. I mean, because these are guys that have been around before, so maybe they're all chill. You know what I mean? Okay, so JT Money,
around the house.
JT Money got naked. You know, so okay, but you know what I mean? Like maybe there isn't all that. Ann wants more house stuff too.
Yeah, this is what they need for people. If you think about it in the entertainment business, what are people familiar with? They're not familiar with fights really. They're familiar with drama on reality TV. Come on, you know what I'm saying here?
Yeah, and we got a little bit of that with Cody and TJ, but you know, I guess not enough, huh?
May I have some more, please? Little Oliver Twist.
Yeah. Okay, so you're between a 3 and a 4. Ann says 4 out of 5. Belvin. Let's see. Belvin Flipmonk says, I'm sure Truck and most of the others will get a UFC fight either in the finale or a later card, because he was remembering that on the comeback season, I think that was the one with Matt Serra, all fighters on the comeback season got finale fights. So that's cool.
Well, hopefully let us know what you guys think about tonight's episode and what did you rate it. Let us know on Twitter at Pure Evil MMA and also at Ted Czech. That's TEDCZ. ECH. All right, Ted, I think it's time to break into a little bit of the MMA news, and there was a lot to discuss this week, but at the beginning of it, of course, I think it's only right if we talk about Glover Teixeira versus the Mauler, Alexander Gustafsson, and we're just going to focus on this main card, Ted. Going into it, who are you favoring here? How did you see this fight going?
I picked Gus. I picked Gus to win. I picked Gus to win. Yeah, Gus. I picked Gus to win because, well, I mean, he's younger than Teixeira. Teixeira just you know, has kind of slowed. Like you were talking about Joe looking kind of slow. Same thing with Teixeira for me. Yeah. And I thought, you know, Mauler, you know, despite the ring rust or what you would think would be ring rust, you know, I thought he'd be able to fight through that, and so I picked Gus to win. I was surprised that it took so long. I thought he would get the knockout, but what's that?
You thought it would take the third round, right?
Yeah, I think I might have said that, but so it went to the 5th. Now, a lot of people got on Gus for running. They said he did a lot of running, and then other people were said, no, not running, just circling around and getting to a position so that his back wasn't against the cage.
And I like that.
It's strategy. You know, some people say he's getting on his bicycle. Other people said no. He's fighting smart. And I mean, he got the knockout and had some those uppercuts. Those uppercuts were amazing.
One after the other, and I think that really went back to studying the fight that he had with Rumble Johnson. How he knocked him out with the uppercut.
How Rumble knocked Gus out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they did a lot of studying on that tape. And, of course, a lot of people might remember the tooth flying out, or was it spit, you know?
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Coldwater Canyon checking in, saying younger, faster. I think he's talking about Gus, and then said he did the Condit. Because remember the Carlos Condit versus Nick Diaz fight, Condit was criticized for getting on his bicycle.
Well, look at the fight with Stipe versus Overeem. He was also criticized there. Look at the Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor was even recently doing that in his fight with Nate. You know, this is a tactic that works.
Right. Now, I'll tell you that the worst case ever was Caleb Starnes versus, was it Nate Quarry? I think that was Caleb Starnes literally ran because something happened before the fight. Like he knew his contract wasn't going to get renewed, so he's like, fuck it, I'm not going to fight. So I think it was Nate Quarry, if I'm not mistaken. You're right. Was chasing him around the cage, going like that. It was like chasing him around the cage, you know, like
that was
like making fun of the guy.
That was like what 6'5", 5 years ago now.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
Probably about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Caleb Starnes literally ran. He did a 5K.
Well, going into this fight, honestly, we were talking about it a little bit, and based off of Glover Teixeira's last fight, he looked really slow there, and that really worried me. And I was wondering if the knockout from Rumble Johnson with that uppercut did damage, and maybe he didn't have enough time to recover. And let's not forget, Glover Teixeira isn't working at the top, not one of the best gyms, I should say. I mean, it's here in Connecticut. I'm a huge fan because of it, because he's here, but it's not anything special. I really wonder how much he's growing there.
That's, funny you mention that. Belvin had the same thought. He said Glover's downfall is training in his AT&T. It's American Telegraph and Telephone.
He's working with AT&T.
American Top Team. American Top Team franchise local gym in Connecticut instead of being with a major camp. We know for years Glover Teixeira was a protege of Chuck Liddell. Mm-hmm. He trained at the Pit. But I guess at some point, moved out to Connecticut, possibly because who's Gabriel Gonzaga's in Connecticut. Maybe Gonzaga says, come to Connecticut. It's great for us Brazilians. I don't know, but
Thiago comes out here sometimes. Alves.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
A lot of guys come out here. Just cross training. Not staying, but just cross training.
Yeah, for a spell, come out for a time, and then back they go. But Teixeira was one of those guys. He, for a while there, years back, he was the guy that was most. Everybody was wondering, when is this guy going to get to the UFC? When is he going to get there? He was kind of the most sought after, most talked about non-UFC guy. Because he was just knocking fools out left and right in his prime. Had he been in the UFC in his prime, he may have been champ. But he had visa problems, and so he had to fight in Brazil and elsewhere. So he wasn't able to get to the UFC until he did get to the UFC, and kind of on the downside of things by that time.
And he's definitely had some wars. If we look at Glover and what we were just talking about with him and his gym adventures compared to Gustafsson, who was training at a smaller gym, and then when he lost in that fight against Mr. Wonderful Phil Davis, he was like, well, right. I need to switch something up here. My wrestling isn't that good. So what does he do? He trains with the guy who beat him to teach him how he beat him. And ever since then, we've really seen a polished Alexander Gustafsson.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I don't think he's still training with him 100%, but he did do that after the loss.
Yeah, he the only other person I can think of who picked up wrestling as quick or quicker and better or as good, I don't know how you'd rate it, but GSP, a guy who had no experience in wrestling and got to it like a fish to water and was able to take down Josh Koscheck repeatedly, a Division I, I think he was an All-American, right?
Yep.
So, that's the only other guy I can think of that picked up wrestling without having it as a base, without having
Joanna Young-Zajac, Muay Thai. She had no idea how to wrestle,
Mm-hmm. Gus, when who was it? Didn't Teixeira get a high single on him and lifted him up? But Gus rolled out of that. He was on his back for like a second, and then he was up. So that was an improvement actually, because I think Cormier got the same thing on him, high crotch single up, but Gus I think landed on his back and kind of stayed on his back.
Oh my God, I forgot about that, Ted. Yeah, he picked Gus up and twirled him on his finger and threw him down. Something that you do with your pillow buddy or something. That was something else.
A lucha libre hurricane kind of thing or whatever. But yeah, so Gus is just showing that athleticism, that he has. That you look at the guy and you're like, he's kind of a gangly 6'5", not very muscular dude, but he's I'm very impressed.
I was at the edge of my seat the entire time. I actually was able to watch this fight with my mom's new boyfriend, who's like just getting into MMA, and it was actually pretty cool. Like explaining, we had a big block party this weekend, so of course, you know, I was like the UFC guy. You know what I mean? I was the MMA guy, kind of breaking it down for everybody, and just the excitement that you felt in the room and what I was picking up from what these new or casual fans were watching. I had to rate that fight 5 out of 5 stars going every round. Of course, I thought it was going to end in the 3rd round, but getting the finish the way he did in the 5th and final round, dropping Glover Teixeira with 3 uppercuts and then that hook, that was a sight to see. That was entertainment.
Yep.
And
then go ahead, Eddie.
And then let's not forget, following that, he calls his girlfriend into the octagon and freaking proposes to her. How about them apples?
How about it, man? Yeah, that's. Have we ever seen that in the octagon before? I don't know.
We've seen some weird stuff in the octagon. We've seen people singing in the boxing rings. But one thing I have to say, his girlfriend's if Gustafson's 6'4", 6'5", his girlfriend's at least 6'2", man. She's a tall girl.
Yeah. I mean, imagine their kid. Well, they have a kid together.
They do it. They have one kid together right now.
Yeah. Wait till the kid grows up. I mean, you know, that kid's going to be a giant.
Paul Bunyan.
But I've seen it on the local level. I saw a local fighter here in Pennsylvania propose to his girlfriend in the cage. But I don't know that we've seen it. And Bellator, we've seen it in Bellator as well. But I don't know that we've ever seen it in the UFC.
We recently saw it in Bellator, didn't we?
What's that?
Didn't we recently see it in Bellator?
Oh, man. I'm trying to think. I can't think of the guy's name.
There's been some weird stuff that's happened inside the octagon. That's no joke right there, obviously. But ever bring people inside the octagon, that's usually a no-no. And that's something that we have been seeing lately with them bringing CM Punk in or bringing Amanda Nunes in, stuff like that. But you don't bring outsiders usually inside the octagon. It's got to
be very controlled, you know, because otherwise, you know, you don't want to get what happened in Strikeforce, you know, the
Remind
brawl.
Everybody.
Yeah. So actually, two. I think one was in Strikeforce and one was in Elite XC, with both involving the Diaz brothers, mind you. You know, where they had post-fight brawls inside the cage.
With mayhem.
So you got to be very careful about who you bring in. But so after that fight, so Gus wins and Jimmy Manuwa. Well, they're talking about Jimmy Manuwa and how he fits into all that, right?
Yep.
But those two guys are teammates now, and they say they won't fight each other. So Manuwa's been matched up with Ozdemir, who beat Serkinov at UFC Stockholm, right?
And I absolutely love this matchup. Manuwa, we were all wondering who was going to be matched up against. Was it going to be Gustafsson, or was Gustafsson going to be next in line after DC versus Bones? I think that they're doing a great job with this, but it does kind of push Manuwa under the bus a little bit because, honestly, I did think that he would be next as a #1 contender shot at least, and in the meantime, maybe have him fight Gustafsson. But, like you said, they just matched him up with Ozdemir. I do like that matchup, but is that fair to Manuwa?
Well, Ozdemir is, what is he on, like a 4 or 5 fight win streak, and he just beat Serkinov, who was doing really well. So he definitely improved his stock. And, and Manuwa and Gus have refused to fight each other.
Because they're teammates.
Right, because they're teammates. Manuwa, has this feud going on with DC, but I think, so when you've got Gus that, now you don't...
The DC thing is just so stupid. DC just thinks Manuwa's like a big joke. Like to him, he's like, "Come on, the real fight everyone wants to see is me versus John Bones," and that's set up now. But Manuwa, I'll let you continue. I just think it's a big joke that the DC versus Manuwa thing. I can't get into that. I'd rather see Gus versus DC too.
Right. So, I think Gus won by knockout, and it was in the main event. So, and he based on his history, he lost to DC, he lost to Jones, but really took Jones to the limit, and in my opinion, won that fight.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people think that. So I think Gus is going to be, or he was already at #1.
Yeah, he was
prior to this fight. So I think that solidifies him. You know, he's going to stay at number one. But Manoa is right there. He's right up there. I mean, if he gets a win over Ozdemir, then you know, Manoa would probably be next. And if Gus wins, then I think they're going to set the friendship aside.
I said this before on my Instagram account. This is a very important fight for Manoa to win. We're going to move on in just a second here. This is a very important fight for Manoa to win because there's been a lot of fights with him where he gets the knockouts, but no one really – I was really impressed with his opponent's performances. And I think Ozdemir is the one guy who's actually going to bring something to the table that's going to bring an exciting fight for Manoa. And if Manoa can knock out Ozdemir, then we know that he's ready for that next level. Will he fight Gus? Probably not. They're teammates. But the DC fight, it looks like, you know, DC probably knows something. It might be next. We'll have to wait and see.
Oh, what do you think DC knows?
Well, it seems like DC is really picking at the coattails of Manoa. And why would the UFC put Manoa and John Bones there ringside when DC just fought at that fight? Remember, they had both them there.
Yeah, that was really weird. Yeah. That was a weird situation. So DC, you know, could yell at both of them. I don't know. I don't know what the idea was. Just to kind of build the hype. Ooh, who is he gonna? But at that point, was he already scheduled to fight Jones, or was it still kind of up in the air?
It was still kind of up in the air. Right after that fight is when it was announced because we had the presser. So
I would guess then the reason why they had both of them there was to kind of, who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? You know, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Gus is nowhere to be found. You know, he was busy in his training camp. Mm-hmm. You know, yeah, interesting times in the light heavyweight division, man.
Very exciting. And this upcoming week we have UFC 212, which we're going to end with right here. But we got some MMA news that's been going around this week. One of the big headlines that's been sticking out, of course, Ted, is a big move over to Bellator for big country Roy Nelson. Is this a good idea or is it a bad idea, Ted?
I think it's a good one. You know, he's kind of in the twilight of his career. You know, he could continue to be a punching bag in the UFC. You know, kind of a gatekeeper dude. But in Bellator, you know, let's face it, the level of competition, the heavyweights in Bellator don't compare to the heavyweights in the UFC. So he might, you know, find a new lease on life, so to speak, and you know, a resurgence in his career. He might have better luck in the UFC and in Bellator.
Well, here's my take. If we really look back, and we kind of talked with James McSweeney about it when he came on our show, because he was also on that season of Ultimate Fighter with Rampage Jackson versus Rashad Evans. They really didn't give Roy Nelson the respect that he deserved. They matched him up immediately with Kimbo Slice in that season. Him and Dana were just clashing heads the entire time, and even when he won, he knocked out Brendan Schaub. He was never given the actual respect from Dana White or the UFC, and recently when we saw him knock out Bigfoot, kick Big John McCarthy in the ass, we saw Dana White say he's going to bury Roy Nelson. So immediately Roy Nelson has to put the flags up right when you hear that. And on top of it, he's not getting paid the right amount of money that you would actually think a star like him should be making.
Yeah, I mean, Roy Nelson and Dana White never got along. Dana White, I don't really get why he wanted Roy to cut his hair. I mean, MMA has room for everybody, right?
Even guys that do this.
Rub that belly, rub that Buddha. No, seriously, there's room in mixed martial arts for everybody. I mean, you know, fighters with green hair, gay fighters, you know, fighters that talk a lot, fighters that don't talk.
Fighters that were men that now change into women. Everyone has a shot in mixed martial arts.
There's room for everybody.
12-year-old. There was a 12-year-old girl that just beat a 24-year-old, Ted. Everyone has a spot in this sport.
I don't even want to. Oh, man. See, now that I'm against. But, you know, like the stuff that they do in Chechnya where they're having little kids fight.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's room for everybody. So why isn't there room for a long-haired, long-bearded, beer-bellied dude? Why not? Why not? Why do you have to have him conform? Let him be who he wants to be. You know, so I always thought that was kind of weird and hypocritical of Dana White. So yeah, hopefully, and you hear about the fighters that have gone from the UFC to Bellator, and they say, you know what the big thing is? Respect. They show me respect here. It's not so much about the money, and there's opportunity to make money in different ways, i.e., more sponsors. But they keep talking about the respect that's shown to them, and I'm very happy for those fighters that have made the jump and are doing better in Bellator. So hopefully, same goes for Big Country.
I got two things to say here. Of course, right off the bat, I am excited for Big Country Nelson going over to Bellator. Like you said, trying to get that respect. And Bellator, I got to give them props. 2017 has been a huge year for them, signing on a huge part for every weight class in this roster. And it really is going to make an exciting 2018. The one thing that really worries me, though, Ted, is Bellator doesn't have as many cards as the UFC has, which really means how many times are these guys really going to fight each year?
Yeah, that's true.
How much are they really going to be making over at Bellator when you consider that,
Yeah, and I forget I think some fighters, don't they get non-exclusive contracts with Bellator so that they can fight elsewhere?
Well, we see it with Risen. Yeah, they go fight over at Risen, right?
Right. Sometimes they get like a joint contract. They get Risen and Bellator. I think sometimes they can if they can work it out, they can fight for other organizations, or maybe they can do kickboxing
commentary, like Matt Mitrione was recently doing for
commentary. They can do Bellator kickboxing, maybe some Brazilian jiu-jitsu if they're into that. Mm-hmm. So there's other opportunities too. But you make a good point. You got a fighter's got to stay busy. A fighter fights, so. No, you make a good point there. Yeah, I wish Bellator had more cards. I do.
And that's another thing that I'm really wondering is as we get, because we know that their contract is going to be up very soon with Spike. So I really wonder what changes are going to be made and how they're really going to really look at what they're going to be doing for the next 4-year or 5-year game plan here, because they are making a lot of really good moves, building that roster up, a lot of familiar names. But the one thing that really irks a lot of people is the delayed times, the hour or the 5-hour delays. We're not seeing the live shows, and that's what matters to the actual fans. That's what matters when we got people like us who are on Twitter following the sport, covering the sport. There's a lot of diehards out there. Those are the fans you have to respect and really make the blueprints around, because you got to have a good card, which is what they're doing. They're not just doing these freak shows anymore. They're building the good cards. They're making the familiar fighters, but there's a lot of things missing that they need to build up on, and that really, the time change thing is a big issue.
Yeah, I agree. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to watch something on delay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Is it that do they put it on delay because why do they do it? Why did they do it?
I think it's because of the contract they have with Spike TV, like a certain time pocket that they got to get into. It doesn't make sense that they're doing all these cards overseas with the time difference is like 8-hour difference, 12 hour. It doesn't make sense. Stop doing that. Don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Yep. No, I totally agree. The UFC is able to make adjustments, so Bellator should do the same. I don't think that Bellator, is trying to be, UFC 2.0 or whatever. They're the alternative to UFC. When the UFC zigs, they zag. But this is one part where they should do the same thing, I think.
Well, let us know what you guys think about this on Twitter at Pure Evil MMA and also at Ted Czech. That's TEDCZECH. All right, Ted, I think we should get into the next part of this news segment here, which, of course, brings Cyborg back into the picture here. Cyborg was a big part of last week's news, of course, with Magana getting into the big fight. But the one thing I really want to talk about tonight with you, Ted, is the Jermaine Durandamy really not wanting this fight. Is it really up to her to say that? Is it really up to her to say, I don't want to make this fight, when really the truth behind it is they made this division for Chris Cyborg, and we all knew that if she wasn't the first one to fight, she was going to be next in line after that debut featherweight title match. So what's your thought on this?
Well, if Jermaine Durandamy really doesn't want to fight Cyborg, she should just say it. But she's saying everything but that. She's kind of talking all around it, because didn't she say that I think when she won the 145 title or somewhere maybe leading up to it, 145. You know what? 135, not really my. 145 is my division. Gosh darn it, it's my division. Now she's changed her tune. Oh, and you know what? 135. I'm better suited for 135. So she's gonna vacate the 145 title. Is that what we're led to believe here? I mean, basically, it's she's ducking.
Well, first when she won the belt, she was saying that she had the hand injury, and then she was recently quoted saying that she didn't want to fight Chris Cyborg. That Cyborg's a cheater, which a lot of MMA fans, and I got a big kick out of this, were saying, wait, Cyborg's a cheater? Weren't you just cheating in your last fight? Which, of course, I'm against. I just thought that was kind of funny.
Oh, that was hitting after the bell.
Yeah, yep.
Twice.
And now, of course, she's saying that she wants to drop back down to 135 to hit that bantamweight. So
I guess if she wants to do that, go ahead and do that. But it's just not coming off right. You know what I mean? It definitely does look like she's ducking Cyborg. So, okay, fine. And then Cyborg can fight somebody else for the title, I guess.
Well, you know what? Now it seems like Megan Anderson might be brought up from Invicta FC, who is currently the Invicta FC champion down there on UFC Fight Pass. The same kind of, it's a feeder league to the UFC. It's where Cyborg recently let go of her title. They're going to bring her up to the UFC, which really makes me just kind of frustrated, because it's like, why did Cyborg even relinquish her title? And Invicta FC, she could have just stayed there. Of course, it wouldn't be on as big of a stage or whatever, but it just doesn't excite me as much as somebody that's been in the UFC, has been facing the high-level competition, the Misha Tates, the Holly Holmes, you know what I'm saying here? The Valerie Letourneaus, the Kat Zinganos. I want to see one of them fight. Amanda Nunes maybe step up to fight Cyborg, somebody that we are familiar with. Of course, I love Megan Anderson, but that fight could have happened in Invicta, let's face it.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think Cyborg's dream has always been to fight in the UFC.
Well, of course. Yes.
So she would, so she gave up that title so that she could fight in the UFC. So what you're saying is you'd rather not see Megan Anderson be her opponent. You want somebody else to be her opponent.
Where does Megan Anderson really rank in the top ranks of the girls that are hanging in the UFC? Is my opinion. I mean, I want to see Cyborg fight some real competition here. I'm not saying Megan Anderson isn't real competition. I just think there's some better options here.
At 145, what's the division? There's like nobody in it.
There is nobody there, right? Which is kind of weird.
Aside from Holly Holm, there's nobody in the division. So they have to pull from outside of it. That's the problem. Is they need to construct. They need to assemble fighters. And they really haven't done that. They've created a title, but they don't have a top 10.
And of course, me and you were kind of going back and forth. We were going back and forth about this a couple of weeks ago. It's like, why is there no division yet? There's been nobody that's even been like, I'm open to really move up. Amanda Nunes, of course, is now saying that she's free. She kind of wants to do it. She's warming up to the idea, but there is no one in that division. You go to UFC.com right now. I'm telling anyone that's listening to the show right now, go to UFC.com right now. Look at the weight divisions. There's no one listed in the featherweight division besides Jermaine Durandamy right now.
And is Holly still considered a 145?
135. She got this upcoming fight in 3 weeks here.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah. Not good. Not good. I don't know.
Idea.
They need to do something quick. Strip GDR of the belt, set up a fight with Cyborg and somebody, and then start pulling people from Invicta or wherever, start signing people. Either that or get rid of the whole thing.
All right, Ted, let's quickly just brush on this for 2 to 3 minutes here. Of course, there's going to be people wanting us to know our opinions on this Magana incident that happened to Cyborg while we're on her name. Of course, just to refresh anybody's memory, the UFC Retreat went down last week. 60 fighters, maybe 200 fighters or so. They went to Las Vegas for a retreat where they all got like social media classes, stuff like that. Snoop Dogg concert. They all got together, and on the third and final day, Angela Magana, which you guys might remember from that season of Ultimate Fighter, friends with Beck Rawlings. She's Instagram famous for her booty pics, but hasn't been doing too well in the UFC. Well, she got called out on her shit. She's doing the cyberbullying against Cyborg, and she got called out for it. And It wasn't pretty. But now she's saying that she's going to be suing Chris Cyborg, which kind of rubs me the wrong way. And you're not seeing a lot of Magana's people really back her up. And she also just got kicked out of her gym as well. Ted, what are your thoughts on this?
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, what you're alluding to is that Cyborg actually hit her in the face. The video was the one that everybody was showing. Man, it was so frustrating because the person holding the probably they were holding it the other way, but the person
at the worst time.
Video camera. The person's got their phone and there's like a line of people in front of them. And it seems like maybe they're getting to where the she can see, he or she can see, and right as the punch is delivered, that's when the camera is behind someone's big head. Could you be a worse camera person? No, it was the worst camera job ever.
Well, Ted, it's the same guy who caught Bigfoot in the woods. It must be.
It's got to be. Yeah, the Bigfoot looks over his shoulder. Yeah. Matter of fact, I was just watching a clip of Joe Rogan today talking about that. He had remember Bobcat Goldthwait, the comedian from the Police Academy movies.
The guy who makes all the crazy noises.
Yeah. Bobcat Goldthwait. He had Bobcat Goldthwait on, and they were talking about Bigfoot and how shitty that it's obviously a dude in a monkey suit, in an ape suit.
I don't know.
Right. So it just so happened I was watching that today. Anyway, so
Magana suing Cyborg.
So I think the whole thing was a trap. I think the whole thing, she and I don't know if Beck was involved in it or not, but okay, Magana, systematically cyberbullying, Cyborg, needling her, poke the bear, until finally, and she probably had some idea that Cyborg was going to be at this retreat, and I'm not saying this definitely happened, but it just seems as though it was a setup.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, the video was actually filmed by Beck Rawlings. She's the one who sold the video to TMZ.
The one that we saw where that
I'm like 75% positive, because when it went down, I was following the whole thing as it was all going on, the 3-day retreat, with a couple of fighters that I've had on my show, because they were there. They're kind of, updating me through their Snapchats and stuff like that. I was following along, and then when this happened, Bilal Muhammad was there, Charles Rosa was there. They were all there. And then Beck Rawlings tweeted out, "Hey, TMZ, I got the video. Show me some money, and I'll send it to you." Beck was the first one to actually come out.
I remember that, but I don't know if did TMZ actually agree and give her money for it?
I'm not sure, but I do know that she was one of the filmers for that did catch.
Right. So I mean, obviously these days everybody's got their camera at the ready.
Yeah.
But it begs the question. Oh, well, was it a setup? Because how quickly was Beck, there to begging for money from TMZ? Holding out the videotape for money.
I love Beck.
Right? She's doing that. Plus, Magana saying she's going to sue. So, it just makes you wonder, was the whole thing a setup? Because, Angela, strolling along and kind of maybe sees Cyborg and kind of, tries to make sure to get in front of her. And what does she think is going to happen? Of course, Cyborg's going to hit her. Of course she is.
Now, here's the thing, Ted. Of course, that all went down. But now, not only is she saying that she's going to sue Cyborg, whatever, which I'm completely against, I think you fucked up. You went out there, you were cyberbullying somebody that's a lot bigger than you, that's not in the same weight division. It's not like they're in the same weight division, they're trying to build up for a fight or anything like that. It's just her being mean. And we've seen a lot of people be mean to Cyborg, whether it was Dana White, Joe Rogan. They've all had their picks at Cyborg before she was in the UFC. I'm sure we all remember that. But Magana is also getting kicked out of her gym. Do you think that is fair?
I don't know that story, so you have to tell me, Eddie. I mean, getting kicked out of her gym specifically for this incident.
For this incident. I believe it's Alliance MMA that she's getting kicked out of. And I'm not going to throw the person under the bus, but of course you can go check their page out. But he came out saying, somebody that's part of this gym, that You know, this was just downright dirty of Magana to do to Chris Cyborg. And no one wants to put up with that. It's not the way that you want. If you're the owner of a gym and you have somebody like Angela Magana and you're like, oh, you know, I want my son or whatever to go to this gym, and you look at the people there, you see Angela Magana and her butt pics, and then the Cyborg incident with the cyberbullying. It just doesn't look good. And then not only that, and I really don't want to be the bad guy here. I really don't want to throw shade. But if we even look at her record, and this has nothing to do with her getting kicked out of her gym, but you know, just her record in the UFC, she's not somebody that really should be talking shit to anybody.
And as they say, Eddie, talk shit, get hit.
Talk shit, get hit.
That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. I mean, you could look at it that way. You could also say, well, you know, Cyborg maybe should have you know, went about it a different way, but you know, these are fighters. And you'd never see the day where Cyborg and Magana would be in the same cage together. That would never happen. No. You know, they're you know, Cyborg's got a lot of weight on her, so I don't know, man. You know, I don't know. To me, it seemed like a setup. The whole thing seemed like a setup. The way that you know that Rowdy Beck was so quick to message TMZ, and Magana saying, "I'm going to sue you." And yeah, you know, just seems like a setup.
Pretty weird incident that went down, but of course Cyborg was a big part of the last couple of weeks in news. So let's move on to the next part of this little news clip here. Ted, do you want to, you know, bring us into it?
Oh, we're going to talk about this weekend's fight.
You want to talk about this weekend's fight?
Is that what you're talking about, man?
I think there was one more thing that we wanted to talk about.
We got Big Country to Bellator, Aldo versus Holloway, Gus versus Tex.
Yeah, UFC 212 going down this weekend. That's the last thing that we got to talk about.
All right. Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was.
I felt like there was one more thing, and if anyone has a question, of course we're gonna throw it to our chat room that's open right here. If you guys want to end the show with a question, but let's jump into UFC 212, one of the biggest fights that we're gonna see this year. Not one of the most exciting pay-per-view cards in full length, but we're going to be focusing on the main event here, Ted. Jose Aldo versus Max Holloway. It's going down this weekend. Jose Aldo, of course, was the only UFC featherweight champion the UFC ever had for 10 years running until Conor McGregor came through. Well, I should say, Aldo was a champion in the featherweight division when he was in the WEC, moved to the UFC for 10 years until Conor McGregor stepped up. And both of these
take the title.
Yeah. And both of these guys, their last loss was to Conor McGregor. Of course, Max Holloway losing to him about 4 years ago, 3 to 4 years ago now. But both these guys have lost to Conor McGregor. The question is, Max Holloway's on a 9-fight winning streak. The time is now, if ever, that he has the skill to go in there and take on somebody like Jose Aldo. How do you see this fight going down, Ted? Well, what are your pre-thoughts before we break this one down?
Well, let's see. Aldo, you know, yeah, he's got that 13-second knockout loss to Conor, but his win against Frankie Edgar. Oh, there's one of the rats.
It's Princey.
There's one of the rats. That's an albino, right? It's got red eyes.
Yeah, she's got red eyes. This is one of the ones that live on the couch.
Ah, okay.
She just snuck into the studio somehow. They must have bit a hole through the wall or something.
So he looked great against Frankie Edgar, right? Stopping all those takedowns and everything. Max Holloway's not that kind of fighter, though. You know, he's not a wrestler. I mean, he's a blood and guts fighter, but I wouldn't say he's a brawler, but he's got technique. He's kind of a technical brawler, but he's also good on the ground, right? I mean, he's got submissions to his credit.
Yeah.
I think given the choice, he would prefer to stand. I mean, who can forget
especially with Aldo.
Against Lorenzo Lamas where he did this and then they went dang it dang it dang it dang, and he just threw down in the middle of the cage. I mean, to me it's just one of the just such a memorable moment. And you know what I mean? So that kind of defines, to me, that defines Max Holloway to the core.
Pointing to the center of the octagon and just like, let's stand and bang the last 10 seconds here.
Let's do it.
And, of course, he has that big win over Cub Swanson that we all remember. That was a big win for his career. And he's still such a young guy. And this is the thing, Ted. He's got he's on a 9-fight winning streak. That's something that you never see with somebody who hasn't got a title shot at that point in time.
Is it 9 or 10? Because who's got 10? Tony Ferguson?
Tony Ferguson, I think, has 10.
Okay, so then Holloway has 9. Okay, I know
it's either that or vice versa.
Yeah, I can't remember. I always confuse the two because I know those guys have just been tearing people down. One's on a 10-fight win streak and one's on a 9-fight win streak. Tommy Bones checking in. I want to see you guys take a few shots of something strong before the show. Beyond intoxicated.
Beyond intoxicated.
I'm out, man. I'm out. I had some stuff. I had some tequila the other night, and somebody who was over the house drank it all. So I got nothing, man. Eddie's got something. Eddie just left. He's gonna get something. He had a beer, but he's getting something else, I think, Tommy. Oh, next week. All right. We'll do it next week. We always have neighborhood parties. That's exactly what they have at my neighborhood parties, man. Everybody does
Fireballs.
Everybody does Fireball.
Well, come on, look at the freaking siren on it, or what is it? It's like a basilisk or something.
It's some type of devil thing there.
EVil Eddie's gonna take a shot of it.
All right, do it, man.
So as we were talking here, Jose Aldo, what's one thing that really stands out about him? Of course, his leg kicks, right? Let's look back at that Faber fight. And if anybody's missed that fight before, I think that was in the WEC. That was quite some time ago. But Faber actually had to be carried out of the ring that night because his leg just got turned into the raw meat.
Right. Max Holloway, here it goes, down the hatch. Oh, little beer, little Fireball, maybe a little more beer.
No, not with Fireball.
No. Holloway's going to be ready for those leg kicks. I mean, he's going to be as ready as he can be. I think he's going to be ready for him. You know, he's not Uriah Faber. He's going to be ready for those leg kicks.
Uriah Faber was definitely prone to those leg kicks. Nate Diaz is always prone to the leg kicks. Max Holloway, on the other hand, is a mover. But then we look back at the Frankie Edgar fight. Frankie got caught with a couple of leg kicks of his own. But I think Jose Aldo really did a great job of really holding his own. He wasn't really doing most of the movement. He really let Frankie come to him. And I think Max is kind of the same style in a way. He's not a wrestler like you said, but Max will come to him. And I think that Aldo is a great counter striker as well. There might be some people that are freaking out at me right now for saying that, but I think in this fight, Max Holloway is going to be the one to really put the pressure on him, and Aldo is going to be the one to really be the counter guy here. And is that going to work? Is it going to be a new style of rules here in Brazil? Did they accept the new rules? Do we know this yet or no?
Good question.
It's a very serious question. It changes a lot. It changes a huge part of the way that these guys are getting ready for these fights.
Well, you're talking about the eye pokes. They're going to be tougher on the eye pokes. You're talking about
the collarbone grabs and stuff like that. Yeah. Liver kicks to the heel, all that.
But the biggest thing seems to be the whole down fighter thing. You've got to have either your palms or your fists, plus your feet or knees, I guess. All 4 points, and then you're a downed opponent.
Pretty much putting weight. You got to be pretty much putting weight down.
Right. Not this one finger, one thumb business. Yeah. That's no longer acceptable. Yeah, I don't know if Brazil. I think they call it's the CAB MMA, CAB MMA or something. Their athletic organization. Anyway, so I just see that I'm picking Max Holloway, dude.
Yeah. I think a lot of people really are favoring Max Holloway, but I really do believe that a lot of people are losing faith in Jose Aldo. And Joe Rogan was quoted this week by saying that Jose Aldo's career was tarnished by that 13-second knockout. And I agree to a certain extent. That's what a lot of people remember. But let's not forget what this man has gone through, and the fact that he's only 30 years old still.
Yeah. But let me ask you this: that last fight against Frankie Edgar went the distance, right?
Yeah.
and it didn't look. The criticism against Jose Aldo has been his cardio.
He's only lost 2 fights his entire career.
Right, but there have been other fights that have gone the distance where people have said, you know what, he should have lost by decision because he fades in the later rounds. You know, he likes to get himself ahead round 1, round 2, maybe round 3, but then he starts to gas out maybe mid round 3, round 4, round 5, he starts to gas. So it's kind of towards the latter part of his title reign, there were a couple of fights in there that went to decision where people said, you know what, he should have lost because he really sucked ass the last few rounds. Orlando's asking me, does my chair spin? Yes.
Well, you know what, Ted, to counter what you're just saying, I mean, what they're really talking about is his last few fights, and if we really look back at his career, he hasn't been fighting that much. I mean, Conor McGregor was really calling him out on it, and this is why people have been saying that he's been hiding so much. Because when he went in there to fight originally, we really haven't seen him do anything special since, 2012? I mean, he did have the fights against Frankie Edgar, the infamous fights with Chad Mendes, both fights with Chad Mendes, which was absolutely amazing. But the fight with Zhang, I mean, I think that's what a lot of people are referring to when they're saying that he fades in the later rounds. And, of course, Ricardo Lamas fading in the later rounds. But let's face it.
The Lamas fight, maybe even the Edgar fight.
He's got knockout power in the first 3 rounds of that fight. And if you go beyond that, he's just going to chew you apart with those leg kicks. Because let's not forget, his opponents also tire out as well. I mean, what? This is for every fighter. This is really for every fighter except really BJ Penn. Or not BJ Penn, but Frankie Edgar. And I think Jose Aldo did a great job against somebody that has the stamina to go all 5 rounds, which he just did. So we can't use that here. Come on.
Didn't see in that last fight with Frankie Edgar, I did not see a problem with Jose Aldo.
I don't see that.
So we'll just have to see. We'll have to see if it's evident in this fight against Max Holloway. I'm going with Holloway by decision. I think he's going to get a unanimous decision, and it's going to be very difficult. He should be going for the knockout because let's face it, it's in Brazil. So, I mean, how many foreign fighters get decision wins in Brazil? I don't know. I'd like to see some statistics on that one.
Honestly, man, if we look at the last couple of fights that Max Holloway had, of course they're impressive, but I'm really not too impressed with the fight that he had against Showtime Pettis. It's not the Showtime Pettis that we're all used to seeing. We saw Showtime Pettis in that fight. He broke his hand within the first, exchange of that fight, he said. And then it just wasn't that exciting for me. Of course, Max Holloway finished that. The fight before that, of course, with who did he fight before him?
Who
Jeremy Stevens, Max Holloway. Fight before his last fight. I think it was Jeremy Stevens or Ricardo Lamas. I'm mixing those two up. But in both of those fights, I mean, the real question is, how is he going to do against somebody that's high caliber like Jose Aldo? None of the guys that he's really fought have been high caliber. It's all guys trying to rise to the top, like Charles Oliveira. I mean, the one fight that I really did enjoy was the Cub Swanson fight, which was 3 years ago now.
I don't know. I mean, Oliveira's a tough fighter. Stevens, always there, with the knockout. Although he's hit or miss. Lamas, tough guy. Pettis.
They're all tough.
Yeah.
I'm saying compared to Jose Aldo, though, like in my mind, just from watching Jose Aldo throughout the years, you got to say that this man is just something else. He's on a different level. Every time we put somebody in front of this guy, they get finished or they go to the decision and it goes to Aldo's end, except for Conor McGregor. And it goes for both guys. Both of these guys, their last loss was to Conor McGregor. I just see Jose Aldo coming out with the win in this. And I'm going to call it, Ted. I think he's going to knock Max Holloway out. And I know I'm going to get so much hate for it. And you're probably not going to hear one more person saying it. But Jose Aldo, I think that he's really working hard for this. He knows he needs to prove to the world he still got it. He's still on the top of this game. He still needs to be caged in that cage. They still need to lock the door behind him because he's still one dangerous dude. And he's going to show that against Max Holloway. And if he doesn't, there's going to be a lot of people. If Jose Aldo loses, there's going to be a lot of people, and you know it, really throwing a lot of heat onto Jose Aldo, especially down in Brazil. That's another huge factor in this fight. It's down in Brazil.
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, they're going to be rough on him.
Yeah.
If he loses. Oh, for sure. People are just, very proud of their heritage. I mean, everywhere in the world, but in Brazil, definitely. And
let me ask you this one question, Chad.
Yeah.
And if there's one person in the featherweight division that could beat Max Holloway, and if there's one person in the featherweight division that could beat Jose Aldo, who is it? It's both these guys. This fight can go either way, obviously.
Yeah, I thought you were going with that they can beat each other.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, these are the two toughest guys, best guys in the division.
Yeah.
So we're in for a treat. You know,
wait.
We're in for a great fight. I think it's going to go decision, but I think Holloway's just got to be, aggressive and win those exchanges. Of course, Pat is saying Max by KO round one. Well, not of course he's saying Max, but of course he's saying KO round one. He's picking Max Holloway to do it.
Wow.
And saying Max with the KO as well.
What round, Dan? What round are you going with? And guys, we want to know if you are listening to the podcast right now on audio, if you're listening to the later version of this on YouTube. Let us know what you think about it in the comments below or on Twitter at Pure Evil MMA or at Ted Czech. That's TEDCZECH. Did Ann ring in with what round here, Ted?
No, she just says Max for the win by KO. He has to because he'll be in Brazil, like what I was saying.
Yeah.
And most decisions go to them when it's been close. Frosty is saying, I hope they're not testing Roy Nelson for biscuits and gravy, meat and potato. Oh, and saying third round.
Third round finish. You know what? I can see Max Holloway really picking things up in the fourth and fifth round. I could see that. But I had to bring up the last fight with Frankie Edgar because the stamina was there every single round. Jose Aldo looked great round after round. So go back and watch it. I mean, argue against me if you want. And there are going to be people freaking out that I picked Aldo with the knockout in round 4, but we're going to have to wait and see, man. I think this is a very important fight for Jose Aldo to really prove himself here.
No, it's very possible, Eddie. I'm not going to dispute that. It's very that could happen. That could very well happen. It's a dangerous fight for both of these guys. I don't think the stakes have ever been higher. You know what I mean? This is definitely, without a doubt, the most important fight in Max Holloway's career. You know.
Yeah.
And by the way, 10-fight win streak for him.
Thank you so much. Who brought that into the chat room here?
What's that?
Who brought that into the chat room?
Me, I just looked it up.
Awesome. Thank you, Ted.
But, yeah, Ann saying third round knockout. Sammy's checking in. He said he just got done. He's about to upload his Ultimate Fighter recap.
And check it out, guys. Sammy Eid. Sammy, drop your YouTube page. We'll have anyone here listening to check your recap out as well, brother.
And let's see, what else? Who else is here? So, yeah, we talked about Pat. Pat is here.
And, of course, if you guys have one question for us to close the show out, make sure you drop them in the chat room right now because we're about to close this thing out right here. All right, Ted, one thing I want to talk about before we close this conversation out, of course, is the co-main event. Of course, I brought this up with you, Claudia Gadelha versus Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Claudia Gadelha has been going time after time, trying to get that title shot win over Joanna Jędrzejczyk every time. She just doesn't get it, but she beats everybody else. However, Karolina Kowalkiewicz made a rise in that division recently. Joanna Jędrzejczyk is actually the girl that told the UFC to bring her over because she was a big highlight over in Poland, and Joanna actually fought her as an amateur. So they brought her over, let alone she came up, beat every girl on the way up, including a very impressive win over Rose Namajunas. Now, how is she going to do against somebody like Claudia Gadelha is the question. Well, how do you see this fight going here, Ted?
Well, man. Yeah, it's another tough one.
Real tough.
You know, it's another tough one. Karolina is a Muay Thai fighter. You know, that's her base. And Gadelha is jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
BJJ, but also if I remember correctly, pretty heavy striker, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think that you look at Carolina's, you look at her record. She is a decision machine, really.
Yeah.
You look at it. She has 7. She's fought 11 times professionally. 7 wins by decision. Only 1 win by knockout, 2 by submission. The 1 loss to Joanna by unanimous decision. So she is she's very good at going the distance, and has gone the distance in most of her fights, and winning, and doing enough to win.
Now, Ted, since you have that up in front of you, can you just refresh some of our listeners of both these girls' last 4 fights, who they fought against?
Yeah, if you look at Carolina, Randa Marcos, she beat her by UD, unanimous decision. Then Heather Jo Clark, this is Carolina, beat Heather Jo Clark by unanimous decision. Rose by split decision, and then the loss to Joanna.
All right, yeah. Very tough competition for Carolina right there, too.
Yeah. Oops. Hold on 1 second.
The one thing that people can really say before you read off Claudia's, last couple of fights, that, 1 or 2 of those fights were against unranked opponents, which was kind of weird why they threw those in there. I have no idea. But, yeah, Ted, what are those last couple of fights for Claudia?
Claudia, well, if we go back 5 fights.
Okay.
Tina Latamaki. I never heard of her. Tina Latamaki, she won unanimous decision. Claudia beat her by unanimous decision at UFC Fight Night, Cerrone versus Miller. Then there was the first loss to Joanna by split decision. Then a win over Jessica Aguilar, unanimous decision. A second loss to Joanna by unanimous decision. Then a win over Courtney Casey by unanimous decision. So you look at Claudia, she's another decision machine.
Yeah. Courtney Casey just in the news recently. She just got busted for failing a drug test as well. Just a quick reminder for everybody that doesn't remember or has seen the news this week.
So I think we might be safe in saying that this fight between Carolina and Claudia going to go to decision, maybe?
Most
what do you
likely.
think?
I agree. But the question is, Ted,
it's a wild guess.
Who's going to win it? I got Claudia in this one.
Yeah?
No doubt.
No doubt?
No, I probably shouldn't say that. I regretted saying that the second I said it. But honestly here, Claudia Gadelha, man, she's beaten everybody. Everybody besides Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Who was the last person she lost to?
Except for Joanna.
What's her record, by the way?
Who's that?
Claudia. I'm just guessing of it in front of you.
Well, you're guessing correct.
Cool.
She is 14-2.
See what I'm saying? And those 2 losses are from who? Joanna and Joanna. Joanna, my undefeated record back.
Carolina 10-1.
One loss to Joanna. So the question is, both these girls, who really wants to see either of these girls really fight Joanna Jędrzejczyk? And who's next for Joanna Jędrzejczyk?
Oh my God, Eddie.
It's a mess.
Listen, we got some dirty dogs here. Orlando and Tommy are asking me about. Oh, if I can. You remember the old song, "Sit on my face and tell me that you love me."
No.
Sit on my face and tell. They're talking about. They're asking me about. Okay, they're asking me about Claudia. We're gonna veer this way for a second, into the dirty zone. Claudia and Carolina. They're asking me about them. In which would I prefer? In a particular.
See, here's the thing. With Claudia, I really do have like a crush on her, but she's like kind of like manly a little bit, but she's very pretty. But she's like, hey man, no man. She's like Aldo, and she's like the female version of Aldo.
I like to fight. You like my traps. I like to fight and my deltoids. Yeah, too mannish for me. I would definitely I choose Tommy in Orlando. I choose Carolina. What you're talking about there.
It's very close for me because I don't mind it. I don't mind like.
You don't mind the manliness, dude?
It's not like manliness. It's a different time in the world, Ted. It's 2017. These are athletes. These are athletes. Imagine what that experience would be like.
It looks like a man. What's the difference?
Imagine what that experience would be like. No, but I see what you're saying here. I bet a lot of people would rank in as KK. But Claudia's very pretty. She's a very pretty girl, and I respect what she does. But the one thing I always love, every day if you follow her on Instagram or Snapchat, she takes pictures in front of her bathroom mirror of her abs every single day, and she has the right to, though, because she's one shredded girl.
Claudia.
Oh my!
Every
God.
day we get an ad picture every day.
We can go to it right now, and I'll bring it up if you guys want to follow her on Snapchat. Yeah, every day you get a picture of her in front of her bathroom mirror with her shirt lifted up of her abs, and she's shredded, man. She's absolutely shredded. This is no news to any hardcore fan out there.
Well, abs don't win fights, Eddie.
That's very true, especially against Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
Like the great Bruce Lee said, boards don't hit back.
But yeah, Ted, the one thing that we do have to say here is that both these girls really never fought anybody like the caliber of Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So somebody's one has got to turn into a two, or how does this go?
Well, no, Claudia has two. Claudia has two.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. They've only lost against one person.
Yeah. I get it. So yeah. Tommy's saying, look at her photo shoot. She looked damn sexy.
Yeah, she does.
I think he's talking about Claudia.
Yeah, of course. She's a pretty girl.
And then Orlando, that's fucking illegal.
Dana White, that's fucking illegal. But yeah, guys, like we do on every episode here, of course, we're going to be throwing it up to you. If you guys have any question you want about anything going on in the MMA world, anything at all. It could be dirty, it could be whatever. I don't care. Throw us a couple of questions here. Me and Ted are going to answer them for you. Hit the floor now. But Ted, I got to remind all of our listeners right now to tune in to Pure Evil MMA episode number 44. We are doing a giveaway. We are giving away a t-shirt.
Giveaway, man.
An official Rick Glenn t-shirt. And it's actually not just on Pure Evil MMA. I'm bringing it up here on Evil and Intoxicated because it's right here on the iTunes channel is how you can win. All you got to do is rate us here on iTunes. Give us 5 stars. And, hold on.
Oh, what do you got, man? Uh-oh. Is it another rat on the loose?
Yeah, I got Pepper.
It's another rat
up the desk.
Whoa! Thing just jumped.
Yeah, she's climbing up the desk. There's Pepper. She got into a little fruit punch. She got see a little red stain on her?
Pink rat.
She got into some fruit punch. But yeah, guys, we're giving away an official Rick Glenn t-shirt here on Pure Evil MMA and Evil Intoxicated. So if you want to win, all you got to do is give us 5 stars down below and a quick...
Oh, Ann is weighing in. She's saying cowboy for her. She would take cowboy.
What, to sit on her face?
Well, Eddie. I mean, yeah, something like that.
Oh my God. She
just wants to. Hey, since we're all being dirty, okay, she gets cowboy.
This is funny. Well, Ted, if you could pick one girl, since we're on it. No, I'm just playing. If there's one girl in MMA, who would it be that you could sleep with for one night? Who would it be?
Oh man. Well, I mean, of all time, Gina Carano.
I knew you were gonna go for that. I knew you were gonna.
Oh yeah.
I knew you were gonna go for that.
Oh, Gina's my girl. Oh yeah. I mean, Misha's number 2 probably, but Gina's number 1. All time number 1.
That's so funny because I was definitely gonna pick Miesha Tate.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I was never really a big fan of Miesha until lately. She's been looking really good. Who just snuck in here?
Save a horse, ride a cowboy.
But yeah, guys, make sure you guys give us a rating down below. And also, if you want to give us a rating, or not a rating, a description or whatever, comment. That's how you can win. I'm going to be giving away 2, not just 1. We're going to have 2 winners here. 2 winners here. So, Ted, do we have any questions there in the chat room?
No questions. Oh, Orlando is asking about the triple uppercut by Gus. Yeah, that was amazing. He's like, I know he doesn't have the longest. He's got a long reach, but he's like Stretch. Remember Stretch Armstrong, that thing that the figure that you buy. He was like, wow, with those uppercuts. They were coming from halfway across the octagon. Wow, uppercuts. Yeah, they were a sight to be seen. They were amazing.
3 uppercuts in a row, and then a right hook or a left hook that just dropped Glover Teixeira. And like I mentioned earlier in the show, it's because of that fight that he had with Rumble. He's just so prone to that uppercut. That's something that Glover really needs to work on. And does it have to go back to making a change with his gym? Does he have to make some changes? We're going to have to wait and see to find out. But, yeah, beautiful uppercuts there by Gus.
Yeah, so Oh, and Ann is saying she agrees with me. If she were gay, if Ann were a lesbian, which she's not, but if she were, she would take Gina as well.
It only makes sense, and I think about 75% of the MMA community probably would side with you guys there.
Yeah, where is Gina? Last I saw her, she was in oh God, what was the movie there? Deadpool. She was in Deadpool.
She was in Deadpool?
Yeah, man. She had a she had a match kind of sticking out of her mouth. She was in Deadpool. Trust me.
See, I only saw the beginning of Deadpool and then I shut it off. I wasn't that into it. Wasn't that into it.
What? Are you kidding me?
I know there's a lot of people that told me that, like,
oh my God, it's hilarious. You have to watch the rest of it. It's the funniest lines. Funniest lines.
I was like somewhat into it, but I don't know. It was just a little weird.
You got to give it another chance, man. Give it a redemption.
I'm gonna give it a redemption, especially with Gina Carano, and I did not know that.
Yeah, she's in it. She is. I mean, she's. It's a minor role, but she's in it.
Definitely got to check it out. She's in a bunch of roles, but yeah, Ted, I think we should end the episode with one last question. If somebody doesn't have one, I got something that I could bring up.
Okay, well, Orlando said, what do we think about Tenshin Nasukawa?
Coming over as a kickboxer into the MMA world. This is something that I was talking about before. The UFC, they of course they want to match him up with somebody that's going to give him a hard fight. Now, should they give him somebody like a striker like himself to give us a really exciting fight? Or are they going to match him up with somebody with the complete opposite style that's going to really try to grapple him and try to really show him some adversity here? That's not the right way to go. But then again, it's the UFC. So how do you think they're going to match us up, and who do you think they're going to match him up against? Does he have an opponent yet or no?
I don't know.
I don't think
wait.
So.
So this guy's coming over from kickboxing. So he has no.
He's 0-1 in MMA.
Oh, okay. Because we've got another guy, Gokhan Saki.
Maybe is that who I'm thinking of? I think that's who I'm thinking of.
He's a former kickboxing champion. And the guy was.
That's what I'm thinking of.
What do they call him? The something Mike Tyson. He's oh God, what? He's European. He's Eastern European, but they call him the something Tyson. Gokhan Saki. He was a K1 kickboxer and a Glory kickboxer. He was a champion, and he just got signed by the UFC. Gokhan Saki.
I'm thinking of Saki then.
But there's another guy, Tenshin Nasukawa, a Japanese guy. He's only 18 years old, and
I'm happy you corrected me on that.
I think he might be the guy in Ryzen. Isn't he the young gun in Ryzen?
I think you might be right there. I'm very sorry for getting those two mixed up. But yeah, Saki, he's 0-1 in MMA. This guy though, he's 18 years old. That might be one of the youngest people to ever be brought over into the UFC.
Okay, Tenshin Nasukawa. He is 3-0. He's a flyweight. Yeah, he's the Ryzen guy I'm thinking of.
Okay.
His 3 fights have been all in Ryzen. Ryzen 3, 4, and 5. A TKO, a guillotine, and a TKO. Yeah, he has looked good. Now he's obviously green at 3-0, but he's only 18 years old, so he is a serious prospect. Let's see.
Got rats falling from the ceiling right now. It's crazy in here right now. You have no idea what's going on around me.
Yeah, rats everywhere.
It's getting. If you guys can only see like a 360 of what's going on in here. I got quite the community in here right now.
Cats and dogs living together.
They're literally pouring in here, all the rats. I got 6 rats in case nobody knows. And, of course, God. Oscar's in here right now.
Only you, Eddie. I mean, anywhere.
I literally just, Ted, I swear to God, I saw one of the rats about 6 feet up in the air just drop into the room from the closet. it's It's
Eddie,
like Willard. It's like Willard.
Anywhere else, 6 rats in a room would be a bad thing.
They're just pouring in, man. I'm not even kidding. I hope it's all right.
So, all right, last question. Sammy's asking, do you think the only reason they signed Manoa versus Ozdemir on UFC 214 is because they don't think John Jones will make it? See, John Jones and DC are supposed to fight, but, you know, everybody, I've been on the message boards, a lot of people, and they're making jokes. They're saying, hey, you know what? Between now and then, something's going to happen to John Jones. He's going to get pulled over. He's going to get arrested. He's going to do something. He's going to do something to screw it up like he always does. So they signed Manoa versus Ozdemir, but they could easily just move one of those guys into the spot against DC.
Let's not forget, Dana White was once quoted immediately after UFC 200 that he was never going to give John Bones another shot at a main event. And what does he immediately do? And we thought we were in the clear for UFC 200. Me and you were doing the breakdown the night before. We were less than 24 hours away. And I think Sammy was even listening in that night. I think Sammy was one of the people that was here during the reaction of it. And Ted, you got to prepare for something like that. When it happens once, all right, whatever. When it happens twice, come on. Like, don't be the fool that was like, I didn't expect anything to happen. Like, Sammy makes a great point here. You know, kudos to that. I think that the UFC is definitely well aware that this is a huge possibility. And we have some time before that fight goes down. So there's going to be a lot of people saying that they do not think this fight is actually going to go down without something happening or getting in the way or some type of weird injury at AKA or whatever is going to happen in the next couple of weeks here.
No, I mean, yeah, you as a promoter, you got to prepare, and especially like you said, especially it's John Jones, you got to prepare.
Or if you got somebody working or training over at AKA, you got
to have a plan B. You know, so yeah, I mean, yeah, DC, something could happen to DC as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's good that they're doing that. I think Gus would take exception to that. I think Gus would be like, "Oh, hello, #1 contender right here.
What do you do?" Great point. I think that's what I think they need to have. I'd rather see Gus on the back burner than Manoa.
Well, and maybe he is. He's just, you know, he's not. You know, they set up that fight, and then they've also got Gus. Maybe, I don't know.
All right, Ted. So as we close this episode out, is there anything else going on in the chat room before we end this baby?
Yes, you are the Willard of the 21st century.
That's awesome. I'm the Willard of MMA. How about that? I'm the Willard of MMA.
That was a movie, right? Willard?
Yeah, Willard. They even had the remake of it.
Oh God. Because so what was the deal? He was in love with rats.
Here's the deal. It was a young boy who had an abusive childhood, and he made friends with a rat named Willard, and he grew up, got older, or whatever, and him and the rats would like plot murders with one another for people that really did wrong against him in his life. And the movie ends up as I can't ruin the ending because it's just something that you got to see. But I'm the Willard of MMA.
Okay,
remember that.
You can have that title.
Remember that.
It wasn't that Crispin Glover? Wasn't he Willard?
In the newer one?
No, the old one.
In the newer one, the guy who plays Hey McFly from Back to the Future.
Yeah, that's Crispin Glover.
That's the remake. That's the remake.
That's the remake.
That's the remake. The original goes back to the 80s, and Michael Jackson actually did the soundtrack to Willard.
Jeez, I had no idea about that.
Yeah, a little bit of that. A little bit of that. A little bit of that.
Dropping knowledge. There. Yeah, no, I remember seeing the trailer for it, but I never watched it. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna watch a movie about rats. You know.
All right, so Ted, let's end this thing off. My last question to you is: where are you going to be this weekend to watch UFC 212? Are you going to go back to Buffalo Wild Wings? Where's Ted Czech go for UFC 212? You going to fly to Brazil? What are you doing?
Yes, on my private Lear jet. Now I don't know. You know what, Eddie? God, I've been so busy with stuff. I haven't even had time to think about it. Yeah, I might get out to B-Dubs. I just might.
You know, I went to B-Dubs one time. Or no, that's a lie. I went to B-Dubs a couple of times. Only one time to actually sit there and watch the entire pay-per-view. It's a fun time. I just get annoyed with people around me that just act like idiots. You know what I mean? That
all right.
shouting stupid stuff where I'm like, that can't happen. You know what I mean? People that really don't know the sport.
Most of the people I think at the one I go to are smart. You know what I mean? Like they're into the sport. One time we went. This was a few months back. I forget what what number it was, but it was packed, and people were like, hey! Every time somebody got a knockdown, people were like, oh! You know, every time anybody got knocked out.
That could be fun though. That could be fun.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. You know.
Sometimes it could definitely be fun, but you know, I live here in the city, so there's a lot of stu-nods that come in and out. You know what I mean?
Stu-nod.
A lot of stu-nods that come in and out. But I'm from the East Coast, guys. I'm sorry. If you don't know what that means, it means a bunch of idiots. But yeah, UFC 212. I'm gonna be having a couple of people over maybe, but of course I'm gonna be covering it live on Twitter and followed up by a recap. Ted, one last time. Who are you favoring? You're favoring Max Holloway to finish it by decision, correct?
Yeah, I said Holloway by decision.
And I'm going for Jose Aldo by knockout, round 4. So anyone out there that wants to make their predictions, let us know on Twitter at Pure Evil MMA and also at Ted Czech, CEDCZECH. All right, Ted, what can everybody find on your channel if they want to bounce off of here? Go check your channel out. Make sure you subscribe to Ted channel. But you know, what did you get up this week?
Well, you know what? I got to tell you, Eddie, I have not been up to snuff. I have not been my usual self.
Oh, I got accepted, Ted. I got accepted to YouTube Live on my phone.
Is that right?
Yeah, man. I haven't used it yet, but I got accepted. I wanted to tell you that. I forgot.
Good. Oh, so you had to apply.
No, they just accepted me. Like, you said that they only accept, like, a certain amount of people. Well, now they...
I thought so, but I you know...
Well, I didn't have the option.
Good.
I didn't have the option last week or the week before, ever before. Now I can go live right from my phone. Which is,
good. Congrats, man.
Yeah, so that's exciting. And of course, you've been doing your YouTube lives every Monday night. Are you still doing that?
Well, I missed. My parents were in town, so and then we had the holiday, and so I missed this Monday, and I feel like crap over that. I really do. But I'll be stepping things back up. For sure.
Well, of course,
maybe even tomorrow night. Maybe even tomorrow. Who knows?
Well, of course, we just did our Ultimate Fighter Season 25, Episode 7 recap, and we have a lot of questions, guys. Who do you think is going to win next week? Is it going to be Hader Hassan or Joe Big Daddy Stevenson? I mean, he's got to prepare in the next 6 days. Like Ted said, it's already happened, but, you know, this is going to be an exciting fight. I really think that Joe is not going to win this. Let us know what you guys think. And make sure you check out Pure Evil MMA episode number 44. And if you want to win the giveaway here in Evil Intoxicated or on Pure Evil MMA, all you got to do is check out our iTunes page. On iTunes, just search Pure Evil MMA. Give us a review. Rate us 5 stars. And I'm going to be giving away 2 official Rick Glenn, the Gladiator Rick Glenn, t-shirts. So make sure you guys check it out. I'm Evil Eddie from Pure Evil MMA. That is Ted Czech, and we're out.